Welcome to State of Consciousness Podcast with your hosts Gabriela Fernandez and Ryu, along with various other community collaborators, who will take you on a journey to explore through their individual offerings and services how they are contributing to the greater shift on the planet. If you are interested in how you can both experience and become a part of this energy, sit back and give a listen as we are all one.
Welcome back to the third episode of the State of Consciousness podcast. In this episode, we are interviewing Crystal Forman, who is the health and wellness educator, coach, and owner of Holistic Wellness and Health. She offers plant-based cooking classes, wellness workshops, health coaching, gardening consultation, and mindfulness meditation to help all beings live a healthier, compassionate, and more vibrant life. Crystal also works to improve food justice, food sovereignty, and sustainable food access. In addition to her public health and health administration degrees, Crystal is a certified permaculture designer and a certified Baltimore City master gardener. She's on the board of Black Veg Society, the Baltimore City Master Gardeners, and the Economic Development Committee for the Carter School of Music.
We are really looking forward to Crystal giving us her perspective on our question around the awakening, right, and her contribution to that. So really looking forward to having this wonderful discussion with Crystal Forman, and yeah, stay tuned.
So welcome, Crystal, to the State of Consciousness podcast. We are really excited to have you. And so to kick it off, we'd just love to ask if you could share with us a little bit about yourself and the work you're doing in the community and how you got started with that.
All right. Thank you all so much for having me here. Happy greetings. So I am a health educator and plant-based chef. I have always been a health nut. So even as a child, I was like really, I got my mom to stop smoking. I was one of those children who actually chewed their food. It takes me a long time even now to eat. So like I would hear like you're supposed to chew your food 30 times. And like at 6, 7 years old, I was doing that. And just like making sure everyone else is pretty healthy too. That was like always my goal. And then it also became a thing of prevention. So I originally wanted to go into medicine because I wanted to help prevent diseases and issues. And a lot of it was stemmed from my stepmother having miscarriages. And I was like, I want to prevent that from happening. And I realized like even early on, a lot of the issues that were in my family, like hypertension, diabetes, was related to what we were eating. And all of the women on both sides of my family are obese. And I did not want to be in that situation. I didn't want to have all of the issues that came along with that. So I like did pre-med and did all of that through school. And I actually decided to get a degree in my master's in public health with the idea of still going to medical school. And I did go, actually, I did a year. It was like the most miserable year of my life. I was very unhappy. It was not like, I knew I wanted to do education and prevention, but I knew there was a better way for me to do that. So I finished out that year and I was like, no, this isn't it. And I just kind of like was figuring it out. So I did like health education for quite a while. I did that pretty much right out of undergrad, just doing like colorectal cancer awareness and things like that. And it always came back to diet. It always came back to what we eat, especially with colorectal cancer, but with all of it. And so all of our major issues and diseases. So I went from like telling people like we all know to drink more water, eat more fruits, eat more veggies, but showing people that was the key that was missing. And so for me, it became like showing people how to actually take the steps to live a healthier lifestyle. And then I also even as a child, I always wondered why we didn't have food growing everywhere. Like, it just didn't make any sense that we had trees that didn't have fruit on it. So I would go to my father's house on the weekend, which he's in the county and Baltimore County, and I was in Baltimore City, born and raised. And I would see, like, I was never food insecure. I was blessed, and I'm grateful for that. But I had friends who were, and I just never understood why food wasn't growing everywhere. We had parks, in different places. And so even part of my mission now is to make sure that we have food like in urban settings growing, and that people know how to grow their own food in containers, whatever small space they have or large space that they can grow food, and be at least partially self-sufficient. Yeah.
That's interesting that you had, about what age were you when you had this awareness, like, everybody should be growing food. Why isn't there food all over the place?
Yeah, I was about 6 years old.
Okay.
Yeah, I definitely, just like, I would look out back. So I lived in a row home, and in the back we had like this green space, and it's just a square green space, and just like we can totally be a self-sufficient neighborhood. Like, if everyone grows up, like, I was thinking the 6, 7, 8 years old, even like all in that range, I would just look out and be like, why aren't we growing food? At my father's, like, he has a nice sized yard, and he had apple tree, pear tree, crab apple tree, all of these trees. It's not a big, I mean, it's a nice sized yard for, especially for like city county, but it's not huge. But he could grow a lot in that little space, or nice size space, but it wasn't like an acre. And so the food industry has us convinced that we can't do this. And my child brain knew that we could. And if you look back in the past, like hearing about like victory gardens and things like that, people did it. People used to grow food, in their yards, even in community settings. We've gotten away from that. And I think that it's important that we get back to getting back our hands back into the soil, not just for the food, but also just for our mental health, and physical health. All of it goes together. And I think just being outside and being in the soil is really just beneficial for us, on a physical level and on a spiritual level as well.
Definitely. And I think that point that you made about showing people how to do it is so crucial, because people, even myself included, having taken a permaculture course, sometimes there are so many blocks in the way from actually getting started, and fear of messing it up or not being able to grow the food, or just all these fears in the way, and having you show people, step by step, this can be done. Here, just plant this seed and water it this much, and what kind of sunlight it needs, and having these workshops and educational programs, I think, are really, really huge. So thank you for what you're doing for the community. And I'm wondering, did you face any challenges in the health education sphere before you moved on to doing your own, DIY education and hands-on?
Yeah, some of the challenges for me, like looking at the websites of the most popular organizations, like what they tell people to eat, and not being able to really say, like, this is what we should be eating, like knowing that, like, I'm looking at some of the recipes, I'm like, there's nothing healthy about this recipe that's on this website for this health organization. And so it was totally against like my values, my ethics. I wasn't even vegan at the time. I was like very much so omnivore, but I knew better. And I knew that for people who were in like chronic health conditions, they just like had no business. A 20-something-year-old that's pretty healthy, a 30-something-year-old that's pretty healthy can get away with certain things, to a point. But like for an organization to suggest certain things that like the World Health Organization has determined to be carcinogenic or, have issues, that was something to navigate and to be challenging for sure. Just being still in that environment, and sometimes there's a set curriculum, and like, it just wasn't good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And you have, and I keep going. You put that out there about the, 5 years old and having this recognition, like, wow, this just makes sense to me. It's almost like your calling came pretty early. Your connection to and awareness to all of that, and then kind of how you mentioned the idea of folks growing in small spaces, and really, a lot of that's what a lot of our indigenous ancestors did. We're kind of circling back around to all of that, right now. But I know, just in the relationship that you've had with the center, watching your journey expand and things like that, it's almost like now you're gathering these other little nuggets of really moving into this social justice, quiet activism component of things. And, I just want to, we'd like to hear a little bit about that and how that's really like connected to your overall work, and why you kind of feel you wanting to go in that direction, right?
Yeah. So a lot of what I do is everything from seed to table, like teach people how to grow their food. So I'm teaching young people in a is it like homeschooling curriculum, or how to actually, like, we go to a farm, we're growing our food there, and they're learning how to cook it and preserve it as well. So that's one aspect. I'm also a produce safety educator, so I'm actually working with farmers, teaching them how to have safe farm practices, how to do risk assessments on their farms, and how to write food safety plans so that they can have a viable business. Because quite frankly, a lot of farms do struggle. And so, just giving them the tools to make sure that they're doing everything in a safe manner, effectively and cost effective as well. Yeah, so that's like some of it. And then I also have been having food justice talks. So I just had another guest speaker for Earth Day. And we did a community cleanup after. I was able to introduce the community to vegan food from my business, and some other people like chipped in. So it was like a great day of fellowship, but also, talking about food justice and what we can do as individuals and as a collective to make changes. The last talk we did a couple of months ago, we talked about like the farm bill, like that's, on the agenda now, and not everyone knows that. So just making sure people are aware, making sure people know that they need to contact their politicians, just their federal, level politicians, and even local, because there are different like levels within the food system that people can actually have a direct effect on. So not just like wishing or thinking, but like giving people the tools to actually make changes, whether that's writing or calling, or writing to your local grocery store and making sure you have, good produce in the stores. All of those things go together, but just making sure people know they don't feel like they can't do anything, or don't feel like they feel like victims. Like I want people to feel empowered to make changes for themselves, for their families, for their communities. Yeah.
And this social justice component, it has arms that kind of spread and connect. And how do you see your work relative, the impact that it has on the greater environment and the world, just in general? And do you feel some special sense of yeah, I'm here right now purposely, right? During this time, that this is a, somewhat a special time, for the people who are here, and it has a lot deeper meaning than what we might perceive on the surface. And when you kind of reflect back on your own life and your own journey, and the awarenesses and the connections that you had around things at a very young age, and how that string's been pulled all the way up to this current time frame, how's that make you think, and how's that make you feel about things in general on a deeper level?
Yeah. So like, I know the work I'm doing is making an impact locally, but also like beyond that. So I have people tell me like that they've reduced, or even eliminated meat, seafood, all those things that cause environmental harm, that cause, like harm to the environment and to the people who live in those environments. And so I bring up to, especially to certain groups, so like the younger people I work with, for people of like aged out of foster care, when I bring up the social justice issues of, where Smithfield and some of those farms are located, they're located in areas of people who are low income. They're really trying to move the people out of the area, like mostly indigenous and people of African descent are in those areas, and they are being literally killed by the chemicals and the smells and all of the harmful pollution that's going on. It's affecting their water, it's affecting their air. And so when I can bring that realness to people, it goes beyond just it tastes good or it's convenient. Like they start thinking, like a lot of us have family members from North Carolina, South Carolina, the Virginias. I should say the Carolinas and Virginia, and then West Virginia, North, of all of Virginia. Like a lot of people have family that have come through there, and those places are being heavily affected. Other parts of the U.S., of course, as well. But if we don't put our money, this is a capitalistic society. It is what it is. If we don't put our money in those systems, and we direct our money other ways, they will go other ways because they want the money. So if we say like they're saying, even now, like I go to the grocery store and I don't see as much like with the dairy milk. I'm seeing like all these plant-based milks that did not exist 5 years ago. Like I'm seeing like a huge difference. And that's people making that demand, people learning that, most of us are lactose intolerant. Why are we even doing that to ourselves?
Right.
So I feel like, the information that I'm giving people, like people will tell me like, I never used nutritional yeast before until, I heard about it from you, or liquid smoke or smoked paprika. And they know that just with using those seasonings,
and those collard greens that you make are good. They taste just like my grandmother's collard greens, and she put all kinds of, carnivorous things in there.
So I actually made those greens for the Earth Day event. And I mean, people were going crazy over it. And one lady was like, I can't tell my mom, but those greens are better than my mom.
Right,
so
right.
Don't tell your mom.
Vegan collard greens, right?
Right. And it's all about the flavoring, and it's less expensive to do it that way than it is to actually get the smoked meats and things like that. So I'm teaching them like it can be delicious, it can be affordable, and it's easy. Like it wasn't it was actually easier than using meat because I didn't have to go through that process of cooking all of that. So, and it's safer too, like for all types of reasons. So I'm seeing like people tell me they've used recipes, they've used, things over and over again. I see people run into people at like grocery stores or just walking, and they'll tell me that they're still using my kale salad recipe, or they're still using my sweet potato recipe, and it's a favorite. And so I know that it's making a difference. I know that people are sharing it with others, and that makes a difference. So that keeps me going, because they tell me these things, because sometimes like, does anyone care? But I do see it, and I hear that feedback, and it's very valuable for me to know that that's actually is making a real impact for people.
Those of us who are doing that quiet work so diligently behind the scenes are generally the ones that are making the biggest impact, because it's not about being seen, as someone said the other day. It's about facilitating your contribution of change. And when you truly are focused on that in an authentic way, it just spreads. And you look up and you're like, wow, I can't believe how many people I'm touching. I can't believe the impact that's happening over a very short period of time. So it's interesting. So I'm gonna I'm going to step down a little bit deeper on a little bit of a deeper level. And I think you alluded to some of this when you were talking about how your focus of your work on these different types of communities. How do you think based on who you are, ethnically, gender wise, everything else, out pictures in this work, relative to the lens that you're exploring through, and the challenges as well as opportunities that you have observed along the way, as well as your ability to impact and make a long-standing impact on everything around you. Because from what I've observed, you've had the ability, because of who you are, to touch a lot of different communities while you're still really supporting and helping those communities that are of your primary interests. So I think it's always important for people to hear the perspective of someone who has that ability to do that, because oftentimes we think we just have to be so narrowly, laserly focused. And sometimes what we end up doing is we end up excluding in some way through that process. If
Yeah,
that long-winded question made sense.
no, totally. Yeah. You always hear like within business, like you need to niche down, get a niche.
Mhm.
And it was really hard for me because people like business coaches would be like, well, who do you attract? What type of people? And it's hard for me to say because I attract all types of people and I work with all types of people, like from kindergarten up to like 90-year-olds and people who mostly low income people or mid income, but also people who have money. So it's like, so when I say like making healthy living easy, nutritious, delicious, and fun, easy could be for some people just like they need something that takes less than 15 minutes, or it could be easy, like I can go to the store and buy this, with $20, you know what I mean, and make a meal like that'll last a week for my family. So that it can mean different things to different people. But yeah, I attract men, women, different ethnicities. It's like, it's hard for me to say. And I do work with a lot of different communities, including like different religious communities, synagogues and, Baptists and Catholics and all of these different churches that I get invited to, or places of worship I get invited to. And I'm not like Jewish, I'm not any of these things, but I think that people just see that I am like really just clear and honest about everything. I think it actually helps that I'm plant-based. And that was something when I first started my business, I was very concerned about. So I started it my business in 2015. Veganism was still like becoming like a little more popular, but I was still kind of that word, because it comes with a lot of negativity with it. So
People think Bugs Bunny.
that, and also people think skinny white woman.
Yes,
like
exactly.
they don't think
You're absolutely correct.
right, that's it's the truth. And so I think when they see someone that looks like me, and that I'm real, and it really does help that I'm actually from Baltimore, because if you come to Baltimore, one of the first things people will ask you is, where are you from? And then within that, like where within Baltimore City, and what school did you go to? Those are the two questions. And if you're not from Baltimore, like people, they're kind, but it helps that you're from here. So like me saying that, it already lowers the barrier for me when I talk to the communities. It definitely helps that I look how I look. I believe that if I served some of the same stuff and I had a different look about me, whether I was white or male or something, I don't think that I would get the same reception. Like people are willing to try things they've never tried before. And I think no matter their race, and I think that part of it is people assume Black people can cook. So it's just, but everybody's willing to try it. But also within the Black community, it's like I guess they even give me more grace than maybe they would someone else. So they're willing to listen to me. I think that a lot of communities are tired of people coming in and leaving. I've been in these same communities. I've been going to the same like senior centers for 7, 8 years now, and I still go. So it's not like I'm there one week and I'm out. I'm there here and there, and then I'm not there anymore. I am consistent. I do get new projects. Some of them are specifically like maybe a 6-week here or 8 weeks there, but it usually become longer term as well. So it's interesting, just seeing like the dynamic, like what I was afraid of. I had no reason to be concerned or afraid of, because that's actually what people want. People want someone to teach them how to use the produce. I actually went to a rec center that's not too far from where I live today to check out the space. I'll be doing a 6-week series with them starting this Thursday with families, teaching them how to grow what's in the produce boxes, which is what I did basically during all of the pandemic, was teaching people how to use the produce from the food boxes, because people were getting things like, winter squash and eggplant and kohlrabi and things they didn't know what that stuff was or what to do with it. If it wasn't kale or collards or string beans or something like that, they didn't know what to do with it. And so I was camera shy. I did not want to do live videos. Really is because of the pandemic that I actually started doing that. And just like weekly teaching people, all right, this week we have this, and let's make something from this. And that's even like giving me a name here where I go to different locations, even though like those boxes aren't being given out as much, there are communities that are still giving it out. And when I was at the center today, the lady said, yeah, I hope we get something good in the box this week, because we've been getting a lot of squash. And I'm thinking, okay, I don't even know what I'm making Thursday. I won't know until Wednesday when I see what's in the box. And I teach intuitive cooking. Like, okay, we don't know what we're going to get, but if you have some seasoning, you have, the right things, you can saute it, you can roast it, you can do something with it and make it taste good. And that's the main goal, is to make it easy and make it taste good, for sure.
You mentioned one of the points about the idea of being visible at the same place for a length of time. And that seems to be a big theme within the social justice activism community, where a lot of times communities feel like you're in and out. There's no staying power. I mean, I even have observed that with some of the coalitions and things that I serve in, that, communities are saying, it's great that, you're going to give us this to get ourselves started, or you come by and visit every once in a while. But we really kind of need to have that presence, so that I think that one thing that you're, suggesting is really, a high contribution, because you're very, very busy. You're all over the place, but you're making the time to go to these communities, and it's it has a long-term effect on people. It has a sustainable, we're looking at our permaculture values and around sustainability and regeneration, right? It just has this very much more long-term effect, right? Where somebody's really going to get some value out of it for themselves. And then they have an opportunity to pass it on to someone else, So I think those are really, really key aspects. What are, and Gabby, jump in anytime you can, because she starts with these conversations and I'm just kind of tagging on to it. But what are some of the struggles that you've experienced along the way, if any? And why do you think that they may have come about, if you had?
Yeah, and I can't say I haven't had any struggles, especially with 8 years of business. Some of it's like, I don't like the paperwork part of the administrative, financial part. I don't like, doing, like, first it's like hard time. People beg me to send invoices, like, send me your invoice, send me your invoice. I'm like, and it's not like I didn't need the money, but it just was hard for me to do all of that part and be consistent with it. And then it became like when I would send, there were a couple of organizations that it took like a year for me to get paid for work. And even like one organization, I've been working with the school since September and I haven't been paid a dime yet.
Wow.
They're supposed to be coming soon, but like the school year is almost over. And I will say most people couldn't do that, especially when it comes to consumable supplies, because I'm providing food. It's not like I'm doing yoga where I can just, if they have mats and I can just bring myself and I'm just giving of my time. So that's been definitely like a little bit of an issue with, not a little bit, it's an issue because I also had someone coming in and helping me. Luckily that someone is my partner. So that
Mr. Video.
Yes, helping me like the early days of the pandemic, like helping me with the video and everything. Yeah, so it's not like I have to be like I have to pay him right away, but if there was someone else, that would have been, definitely a different situation, a lot different. And so I still was consistent and I knew I would be paid, but this is a long time to go without, nothing, like not one thing. So that's definitely a struggle, even with having a contract. And I don't want to be like aggressive or mean about it or anything like that. And I know it's coming. It's a part of a national organization. I know it's fine, but they need to get their parts together too. And so they are interested in me coming back. And I had someone tell me like invoice them now for September. And I was like,
make sure that your contract reads where they need to be able to pay you within a certain time frame.
Yeah.
I've always been not as good with that either, because a lot, and Gabby will tell you, I'm giving away so much free before I a lot of times even think about invoicing somebody or asking them to pay. And that's because I think a lot of times you're so much focused in your passion of your work, but there is a sustainable piece to this, right?
Right.
There has to be a point in time where you can regenerate or recoup some of this in some way. So
yeah, because that's the only way to have a sustainable business. I mean, even charities and nonprofits need to have money coming in order to, sustain, just operations, whether it's keeping the lights on or, paying for insurance or any of those things. So all of that has a cost associated with it. So I'm that's been a struggle, but something that I'm definitely working on doing better, even with like making sure my contracts actually are pretty decent. Like I don't want to have to then like get legal representation or anything like that. I feel like that could mess up a relationship as well. Now if I see that someone's not making an effort, that's different. But I knew that, it was coming and all of those things. I just needed the director to push the finance department a little more, like this needs to happen. Yeah, because some of the other partners left and they weren't coming back until, and I can't blame them. Yeah, so I have to reevaluate, I guess, my level, like maybe overcommitment or over loyalty with certain things. I don't know what that is, but yeah, that's definitely something for me to work on as a business owner that wants to stay in business.
Yeah, and that becomes we've talked about this in many different venues, this balance between contributing, doing this passionate service oriented work, and then trying to sustain. And it's when you're doing heart-centered work, it's a challenge of a struggle, and then when you overlay that with all the other elements and things. And I just wanted to take a couple steps back when we were having this conversation about the idea that you interact with all these different communities, different ethnicities, your ability to do that as a Black woman, right? And so there is another piece to this, I think, that allows you to have the opportunity and ability to do that, which is like the energy that you're carrying, right? That I think that's what people are connecting to, this balance and this energy that you're carrying that allows yourself to connect with all these different people, no matter who they are. But at the same time, still be able to benefit, those primary communities that you wish to serve. And it sounds like, and just by my experience with you, because of that energy that you carry, some of the challenges possibly that somebody may ordinarily experience, that you haven't experienced them as much, right?
Yeah, that's
Because people can read this authenticity about you, and it's almost like, not seeing you, but seeing the essence of who you are, right?
Yeah. So I've had people ask me in different ways, like, how can I go to certain communities? How do I get them to try
Mm-hmm.
different things? Because they've had challenges. They've had challenges getting people to try okra, try different whatever it is. And even had people tell me, like one community I went to, oh, those kids aren't going to want to try that. I'm like, but they do. Like, I don't know what you're talking about, because they do try these things. They eat it. I've had parents say, oh, my child doesn't eat vegetables. I said, yeah, they do. So it's like,
You're not the chef et le front.
yes. Yeah, I think it's a lot of different things with that. So when I bring up the health, I'm not just teaching cooking, I'm teaching the health benefits of the food, the nutrition. And children want to be healthy. They want it to taste good too. So, when I first presented okra to one of the communities, I know okra can be totally hit or miss, especially because of the texture. But when I explained the health benefits, and I was in South Baltimore, and in that area, so we have an incinerator that goes south, and there's a lot of asthma. A lot of the children have asthma in the part of the city. I brought up how, okra helps, your lung tissue and your digestive tissue and your like esophagus, all of those things. And I could tell the one child, like, she wasn't too, like, it wasn't like she didn't like it, but it wasn't like she liked it either. But she ate so much of it. And it wasn't because she was hungry because we had other food. It's because she knew the health benefits and she had asthma. And she wanted to eat it to be healthier. And so when we think about, like, oh, the children don't, if you tell them why it's good for them, you give them that information, and then you can say, like, you might not like it the first time, but try it again. You might like it a different way. I tell them, like, the first time I had Brussels sprouts, I did not like it. So it's disgusting. But it's one of my favorite vegetables now. So the way it was prepared was wrong. It was wrong for me.
I love those little cabbages, and then I did not like them when I was little. And my parents would always put them on my plate at Thanksgiving, and I was like, no, because when my family cooked them, they were mushy, right?
Right.
They were mushy. I love roasted,
Brussels
those little
sprouts.
roasted Brussels sprouts are like candy to me now.
So I make my niece for Thanksgiving, I'm required to do Brussels sprouts, and I make my niece her own because she eats them like candy.
Yeah.
So it's all about preparation, as well. And then there are going to be certain things, like I have one lady at one of the senior centers I go to, she's in her 80s. And every time I present something new, she's like, oh, I don't like that, but I always like it when you make it, so I'm going to try it. And like, I would say like 19 times out of 20, not even 9 out of 10, like 19 out of 20 times, she likes it. It's very rare that it's something that she doesn't like. And it's like, oh, I guess I do like this. Or okra is the one thing I cannot get her to like. Yeah, so I know that that's definitely, when I present it, is a hit or miss thing. But when you explain the health benefits, like, a lot of people are still willing to give it a try because they want to be healthier, whether it's a 5-year-old or an 80-year-old, still willing to try it.
Right.
And I think part of it is because I'll also say, You either like it or you don't. It's not going to hurt my feelings. I just want you to try it.
Right.
And if you don't like it, throw it away. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
you know, I don't like food waste, but I don't want you to be unhappy either. So if you don't like it, and I think that helps like take that pressure off, like, oh, if I don't like it, then I can throw it away. Like they don't feel like she gave this to me and I have to be polite and eat this thing I don't like. Like if you don't like it, then I just want you to try it. Just try it. And a lot of times, like after they try it, they like it. And even the people who don't want to try it at first, when peer pressure and peer experience is awesome because other people talk about how good it is. And then they'll be like, oh, I'll try some. And then they love it. So it's, you know, that definitely helps having other people, you know, talk about it. And I would say like how I know everything is successful is I keep on getting asked back. They don't have to have me at these places, you know, and even word of mouth, like even the program I'm starting, that's word of mouth. People have heard about me. I don't advertise that I do cooking demos. I don't like put it out there. It's more like the health coaching. I have to like put that out there for people, but the cooking, it just comes, you know, my way. People are interested because they know they've heard from other social workers how benefited their community. And so I know it's working because otherwise people wouldn't contact me. They wouldn't be interested. They wouldn't keep on having me back because they don't have to. And I think if it wasn't successful, if people weren't showing up, then I don't think it would be a business for that part, at least. I know it's making a real difference, not just because people are telling me, but even the service provide, like the social workers and the directors of the centers, they're telling me that they're seeing a difference. I've had people lose weight. I've had people tell me they've gotten off their medications, and they attribute it to the information I've given them. And so I definitely, I know that it's a good benefit for our community at large, and that they're sharing with others.
Have you seen any interest among your students or even your coaching clients in being taught to teach the way you do, you know, expand your team? Is that something you see for your business in the future? Or
yeah, I've had a few people ask about that, and that is something, oh my goodness, yes, that is something that I want to do, trying to figure out the best way to do it, because I'm thinking like a certification program would be good, and then I can train them in like how I would like to see things done, and then I can hire the ones that want to be hired on. Some people might want to start their own thing, but I can bring in, you know, people to replicate, because I can't be everywhere. I don't want to say no. I right now am actually a little overwhelmed. So I guess that could be a negative, but it's not, because I'm thankful I'm busy. But at the same time, I know that it's not sustainable for me to continue to like have this high-paced schedule. And so I would love to be able to bring on staff that I know are well-trained and are know, compassionate and passionate about the work. Yes, so that is something I do see happening. I just need to find the best way to go about that, but sooner rather than later. Because even with all of these like schools, like the school wants me to come back, but then there are other schools now, and so then I still have my other like the senior centers and stuff that I've been doing for years. I don't want to stop doing that. There have been times like when I had to travel out of town, I had a partner step in for me. And even with the after school, like he's awesome with the youth. So he's great, but I need someone else too, because he also has a job. So I have to, I do need to do that. Great question. Yeah.
well, it's definitely, I know, a big challenge. You know, we've seen it in some of the projects we've been through and everything, to teach that same level of passion and motivation and intrinsic desire to spread, you know, the education and the goodness to the world. But I'm positive that you'll be able to do it, and I'd love to see the business expand.
Sign me up.
Right.
I'll be a mini chefy le franc. No, but I could see you easily doing some type of certification program, gee whiz, with the possibilities with that, because you could do some of your training online and then some on different sites, and then working with different communities, and folks will get that really farm to table component of things. Yeah, a
Yeah.
bunch of little crystal mini me's all over the place,
Yes.
right?
Cool.
That would just spread a lot of sunshine all over, wouldn't it? Absolutely. Wow.
Yeah.
Well, we didn't really we kind of jumped right into the conversation, and I think Gabby probably had this question on the list, but we really wanted to give you an opportunity to really also talk about your services and things that you're offering, more specifically also, so that people know the different things and how they can use you for for various venues and things, but not that you don't have anything to do right now.
Yes. So of course I do cooking demos and cooking classes, so hands-on cooking classes. I lead mindfulness meditations. I also teach gardening, container gardening in particular, as well as working with farms as a produce safety educator, and actually go out to the farms and like actually evaluate. And if I can't physically go there, like during COVID, we pivoted and just like had people take cameras around so we could see the space. So there are different ways that I can do that, like virtually. If you're in, Texas, I can still help you with that type of thing. And just like health consultations, workplace wellness for organizations that actually want wellness programs for their employees. So I can do all of those things. And I do a lot of those things, like even right now, co-teaching and permaculture courses, all of those things. I have taken permaculture design courses, certification, as well as I'm taking an advanced training right now. So that's, interesting to go through at a different level. I'm a Baltimore City Master Gardener, so I do like volunteer education around container gardening as well. But yeah, I everything literally seed to table, teaching people how to preserve the food, how to do all of those things, and then health coaching. With the health coaching, I have a couple of different like levels, but it's mostly like actually doing mind, body, and soul. So it's not just like eating healthy, but actually adding in that mindset and all of the other components so that it's more of a lifestyle transformation, and not I lost 15 pounds and now, I'm going to put it back on in a couple of months, but I look good for now, looking good for the summer. And then, winter's here, who cares? But like actually making real health choices. And I don't focus on weight, like for me. So I think that that's something that's a little different for me. It's really health and life. And so if you are healthy at whatever weight that is, whatever that, as long as you're healthy, that's the main thing that's, important to me, that you don't have all of those chronic issues that like shorten lifespans and make life complicated as well.
Right.
So yeah, health coaching and cooking, all of the things. I have to, the YouTube where I'm teaching as well. So it doesn't have to be in person. I can do virtual as well.
I'm just sitting here thinking about how I can become a mini me. I can become I try to pick up as many pointers, because I always, friends and family know that I think that I'm some magical chef in my mind, right? And I always get these little pointers from some of the things that you're doing, and I've had your food before and it just tastes so good, right? And that's the wonderful thing, because I think whenever anybody hears about somebody being vegan, and you cook to the culture, and I think that's important, right? Because and I think that that's what draws a lot of different ethnic groups to you as well, because as soon as you talk about vegan, most folks are just like, I'm just sitting there eating a carrot, and you're eating something that doesn't have a lot of taste, but oh, you're getting some nutritional value, but you're not feeling that satiation, right? But when you can eat your vegetable, something that's plant-based, and it's just you want to go back and get more, you know, and it's possible to cook that way. I know some of my colleagues where I teach and things, they tease me about being vegan all the time, and I've been slowly getting them to eat some of the things in the cafe that they make for us that are vegan, and they're like, this is not bad, and then they'll start asking about cooking different dishes and things like that. I said, I don't eat like a bunny rabbit. I can't. When I was brought up in my family, my parents used to cook all this home cooked food, and it wasn't necessarily that good for you, but my taste buds are used to that. So
Right.
when I changed over to becoming I went from pescatarian to vegetarian to vegan, you know, I carried that with me. I'm like, okay, this has got to taste good for me to just want to come back. And now, when you get used to, I think the value is that once people learn how to prepare the food in such a way that it really tastes good for them, then there's the benefit. And I think that's why what you do is so valuable, because it's all healthy, nutritious, and good, right? And it really
Yeah.
is, and that's what people are like, oh, wow, I didn't know vegan food could taste like this. Yeah.
Yeah. And
So,
I'm glad you brought up that part, like the culture.
mhm,
Like, I think that that's important. Like when we think soul food, and, eating Southern food or anything like that, it can still be rich, but rich in a different way,
yeah,
and still have a lot of flavor. And like, so I do specialize in teaching people how to use food that they're familiar with in a healthier manner, but then also exposing people to things that they might not have ever tried before. Like chayote. I had
mhm,
never like had that before. I worked at Food Recipe Baltimore,
mhm,
teaching people how to use food that would be thrown out. And they had a bunch of chayote. And I
mhm,
was like, I don't even know what this is. And I was
mhm,
like, if I don't know what to do with this, I know that they won't. So I had to learn real quick how to use it, and then teach others how to use it as well. And, you know, those types of things, like actually saying, okay, what do we have? All right, what can we make with this? And it might not even be traditional at all, but it's going to taste good. So that's the
mhm,
most important thing, and it still has some health, like that health benefit for people as well. Yeah, so it's interesting that you brought that up, because a lot of people, even me growing up, I used to think that healthy food had to be bland,
mhm.
or that didn't have to be bland, but I just associated it
Right,
with that.
right, right.
No, and I took the same journey you did. I was pescatarian. I was vegetarian on and off, city
Mhm,
noise, like
mhm,
pescatarian, vegetarian. I went back and forth with that. And then I just like been vegan for over 12 years, like straight now. But it was like that bouncing back and forth. And I found that when you make it about more than just your health, and outside of yourself. So once it became like truly about the animals, about the environment, about other people, and the living conditions that they're under, it's easy for me not to think of like eating animals as like, that's not food. You know what I mean?
mhm.
So it's easy
Right.
for that mindset, that
Mhm,
change, and me helping others have that same mindset change. That's when it
mhm,
becomes a permanent change. When it's a health thing, once you feel better, once you
mhm.
think you look better, and if those things, it's easy to go back, because
Right.
you like, oh well, I'll just eat a little of this or that, and then you
Mhm.
go back to vegetarian or vegan. But once that mindset is like, that's not food,
Right.
like I can, for me, like, and I don't judge others, and that's the other key.
Mhm,
When I go into other environments, I'm not judging. I'm not
mhm,
saying, oh, you shouldn't eat that, because
mhm,
it's like, this is a good way to eat. This is healthy. This is delicious. This is easy. this is less expensive than what you're doing. This is easier than what you're doing. Let's like, change it for your health, your mental health, your physical health. And I do sometimes talk about the spiritual energy in the food, like that people eat, like that when people are anxious after they eat and they don't know why. It's like, that cortisol that's in the meat doesn't cook out. And so I bring up, but that's just facts. I'm not trying to be like, well, what you're doing is wrong or anything like that, because I know that different cultures have different backgrounds, the reason why we eat certain things, and culturally relevant food can be a tricky topic for some people, for sure. And it's a passionate topic. And so by not being judgmental and having compassion with it, and just providing information and facts with love, like I think that's the key, that helps people be okay with me. And another thing, I don't tell people I'm vegan when I go to. I'm just teaching
you know what? It's really funny because I noticed that you don't really say that, right?
It's rare.
Yeah.
The funny thing is, though, I don't know how or why, but people figure it out pretty quickly. Like I'll go to something and they'll be like, "Are you vegan?" They don't even ask me anymore if I'm vegetarian, because that used to be the question. They just like go straight for vegan. I'm like, yes. I'm but I don't say it. They just figure it out. I get a few teases from people like, "Are we making pork chops today?" I'm like, "Yeah, we're not making any pork chops." but like, it's interesting. I made sweet potato chili at a site. It was my first time going to this senior site. And when the guys was talking about like he likes his deer chili and la 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 and all this stuff. And he loved the chili. He absolutely loved it. And like there's protein in there, there's everything in there. He just said he might still add a little deer to it, but at least that's less deer than what he would have used. Yes. And he's adding more veggies and fruit, and so, or more veggies in this case, to that particular dish. So eventually maybe he'll say, you know what, I don't need the deer. Maybe, maybe not, but at least that's reducing and that's helping his health at a minimum. And hopefully, I do believe he saw like the potential of the food, and everyone was like, once you get people to really love it, like the lady was telling me afterwards that usually after they do bingo, people just go home. So I was right after bingo, we did food, and people just stayed around. They just were talking and having conversation. They're just happy. And I think food can do that. Like it brings community, it brings like just that social and that interaction that people crave and want. That people just didn't want to leave. And like they were just having a good time. And I think that like food definitely brings that like different level of community. Yeah, it's different than just having some donuts and coffee.
Right. And you get the sugar high, and then you crash, and then you're ready to take a nap.
Exactly. Yeah.
Well, you're hitting them with the trifecta too, the delicious food, all the information, and the love. They can feel that too, that genuine love and care. And so, it's so wonderful. I'm just like smiling ear to ear hearing about these experiences.
So should we ask her to change the world construct? We always kind of throw out to our guests at the end, we feel we're bringing folks on to this podcast who are really purposely here. Really, we're all purposefully here, but are walking somewhat in their purpose, and building that connection to what's going on at this time, and making their contribution that spreads out. We talk about this love and this compassion. And I guess what are your thoughts and ideas around like the continuance of that? How do you kind of see your place in this big like evolution and this ascension and this awakening that's going on the planet right now? I know that's a really deep question.
Yeah. Okay. So I think my place is really as an educator. And it's funny, I had when I was in high school, a pastor's wife said that she saw me as a teacher. And I was like, I'm going to medical school. I don't know what you're talking about. And I was like, well, I guess I could be a teacher as a doctor. Like, yeah, I'll be teaching people, but like teacher, no. Like working with, I didn't think I had the patience to work with youth. Like when it came to like if they were to get in my face or something, like how would I react? I didn't feel like I had that in me to do. And I also looked really young. So even like when I was 20, I looked like a 12-year-old. So at 30, I looked like a 13-year-old. So it wasn't like I would go in and like I was concerned about all of that part, but I just didn't the term teacher. And now I'm like, wow, she was so right. Like that's what I do. And I think that that's my purpose, is to actually teach. I do get asked a lot if I want to open a restaurant or if I'm going to do catering, which I do some catering now. And I was very reluctant with that. That was just like, I just want to teach you all how to do it so you can do it yourself. And I realized not everybody wants to do that. They're like, can you do some meal planning or meal prep? But I know all of it is like that. My main purpose is to teach people how to do this so that they can do it for themselves and their family. And with that, I see that like that ripple effect of it going beyond just them, going beyond just their immediate family, but them sharing it with their friends. They share the recipes, they share all of that. And I know it's going like farther out. I'm seeing things in stores in my immediate area that was not available before. Like nutritional yeast is everywhere now, like liquid smoke and smoked paprika. People know what these things are. And I know it's like me and people like me who are out there teaching this. And so I do see that effect going beyond just like my small community, just going well beyond all of that. And people sharing the videos even. My last talk, I had someone from California on there that I didn't know. I don't know, like, like it's going out and beyond like the DMV area, just, making that true impact and seeing it go beyond where I am. And I feel like even now, like if I were to stop doing what I'm doing, the information that I've already put out there will continue to make an impact on people. So I definitely feel like on a spiritual level, on a deeper level, like first of all, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. That's for sure. And, getting other people to see and experience all of that. And I talk about cooking with love, like especially when you're touching your food. Like we talk about, oh, grandma's food was so good, or this or that. And a lot of that was grandma's cooking with love. It might not have been a whole lot of things or ingredients, but that love in that food, like people feel that. And I think that when I'm cooking and I'm teaching, people feel that. And so it definitely comes across. I notice a difference, like when I'm cooking tired versus when I'm cooking with intention or cooking with love. I can make the exact same dish, the exact same ingredients, doing all of the exact same things, and it'll taste different, with that energy I'm putting in. So I definitely like teach that to people too. And I know it sounds woo-woo, but I think that some people actually
We're all
get it.
about woo-woo, though. You know that fits right
Yes.
in with us.
Yeah. Yeah, I know y'all understand. Sure. So yeah, I do feel like I'm definitely doing what I'm supposed to be doing. I don't see myself like doing going way outside of what I'm doing. I know that I can't keep up the pace of what I'm doing, like as I get older, because it's a lot of physical work, bringing like all of the equipment with me and all those things. And I will need some like more like some younger folks to come in who want to do this work and want to expand even. And I can see myself wanting to do more of the coaching part, like that's where I can see it going, but I still would want to be in the community and still like actually teach in the community. So just having that balancing act as I like get a little older and seeing like how things are going as well. Because I definitely have some wear and tear on my body. I can feel it. So I have to, be mindful of all of that. Yeah.
And so I guess, Gabby, I'll turn it back over to you for the wrap up, but, if there's any last words of wisdom that you'd really like to share with everybody, relative to you, the work that you're doing, your thoughts just on the world in general right now, and, what things are really, really important to you at this time.
Yeah, I feel like there's an awakening going on. Like more people are learning about the environmental impact of industrial farming. And, they're learning that what they put on their plates can really affect our environment. It affects other people, it affects other beings in general. And I feel like there's an awakening, like people are understanding that when they spend their money on certain products, it can either be for the benefit of others or it can be to the detriment of others. And it's not just animals, like humans are animals too, but it's like all of the other beings, the trees, the water, all of those things, all of the things that we need. So I feel like there's an awakening going on. Like the younger generation definitely cares about climate change. They care about the environment. And I feel like they are the ones that will help make a bigger change. So I definitely am hopeful with that. I would say like I just feel optimistic. I know it's like I feel like some people don't see it, but I can see that there is a change happening.
Yep.
The fact that like so many people now, when I say vegan, people are excited, like they're like, oh, I have a cousin who's vegan, or my daughter-in-law is vegan, or that, so they're knowing more people. And I'm seeing specifically, or particularly I should say, in the African diaspora, more people, like they're saying like the Black community is the fastest growing vegan community in America. And so like in general, vegans make up about 3 to 4% of the population, but in the Black community, almost 10% of people identify as vegan. That's huge. Like that's a huge number there. And so if you're having an event and you have, 20 Black folks there, a couple of them are probably going to be vegan, not even vegetarian, but vegan. And so, making those changes in what's offered, I do try to get people to understand that everyone can eat vegan food, but not everyone can eat other food. So if you have food that everyone can eat, especially if some gluten-free options as well, some other things, that's something everyone can. Like when people complain like, oh, there was no meat at the wedding. I haven't heard this personally, but I've heard other people talk about it. I'm like, you can go one meal without meat. It's hard to be in a situation where there's nothing to eat, but everyone can eat, even if it is a boring salad. Everyone can have salad. Everyone can eat, the fruits and vegetables and the grains and things like that. So just teaching people like that accessibility of having an event, even where everyone can eat and everyone can enjoy. So I think that's where I am right now, just teaching that part. So that people can enjoy when they go out to places and not feel like they have to bring, a bag of nuts and seeds in their purse in order to survive.
You see them over in the corner going, trying to get some nutrition, like a little mouse.
Yes. So they're not like hungry or hangry or anything like that.
Yeah,
For
right.
sure. Yes.
That's funny.
Important.
Thank you so much, Crystal, for sharing some of your time with us and
Yes.
sharing everything that you have going on. And could you share with the audience where they can find you and connect with you and learn more about all your programs?
Sure. So you can follow me on Instagram and Facebook at Holistic Wellness and Health, no space. On YouTube, if you put in Holistic Wellness and Health and then my name, Crystal, all of those will come out. So it's like youtube.com/holistic wellness and health. I do have Twitter. I'm not really on there, so don't worry about that. And you can also email me if you have any questions or comments or just want to reach out for me to come and do talk or cooking demo. I can do that as well. You can email me cforman@holistic-wellnessandhealth.com. The website is also holistic-wellnessandhealth.com. I have free resources on there to help you get started and living a healthier lifestyle. So you can definitely check out the recipes as well as all of the other guides that are on there. And yeah, feel free to reach out.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. And we'll be sure to put those links down in the show notes as well. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you, Crystal.
I appreciate you all having me on.
We
So,
appreciate you.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining us at State of Consciousness Podcast. We hope you enjoyed spending time with us and look forward to the next time. Until then, if you'd like to stay connected, you can feel free to reach out to us via our website at www.innersourcewellnesscenter.com. There you will find links to our podcasts, our Facebook page, and our YouTube channel, as well as our mailing list. Stay connected, stay positive. Namaste.